Yo! I don't know why, but I'm hyped right now. Like, the subject matter is still the same. You feel me? But like, I'm just here with joy, man. In his presence is fullness of joy. And I'm just joyful, bro. Yo! We back for part 2. You feel me? Hopefully, you coming back from part 1. Hopefully I didn't bore you to sleep with part 1. If you haven't seen part 1, what are you doing here? Exit the video. Go back to the last one. Watch it. You're not supposed to be here yet. But if you made it all the way through part 1, we here, man. We still here, bro. If you try to cancel me after part 1, you can't cancel someone whose name is written in the book of life. Praise the living God, we here, bro. And we gonna pick up right where we left off. As you can see, I'm wearing a different shirt because it's a different day. It's a different day. And his mercies are new every day. And it's a different day. I'm not gonna lie. I got kind of tired after the first part and I was like, yo, like, we gonna record this another day. So today is another day, that day. Without further ado, let's pick up right where we left off. Wow, my battery though. As soon as I start recording, bruh, I look up at the camera and I see the battery symbol. I'm like, I just really thought I wasn't gonna record. If you was praying on my downfall, pray harder. Yo, Satan, try again. Man must not know who my father is. I got a charger, bruh. I bet you ain't think about that, did you? We scrape. So let's get it popping, man. If you watched the last video, you probably think, bro, here we go, bro. This man gonna pull out the Bible. Relax. So I will. We keep this thing on us. We abide in this right here, but I'm gonna meet y'all where y'all at. We'll start with the dictionary. I'm not gonna lie, the dictionary is like the Bible for some of y'all, but we gonna start with the dictionary and we gonna make our way downtown, all right? So like I said in the first video, the conversation hinges upon whether or not we are making choice at the expense of a human life. In trying to answer this question of whether or not there's a human life involved, we have to answer the question of what is life? What is human life? How do we define human life? How are we describing it? What does it entail? What does it consist of? What characterizes it? We got to get at these questions. So we're going to try to generally understand what is human life. And we're going to start with a dictionary. Again, I don't have a physical dictionary, but I got a cell phone. So I'm pulling out the dictionary, right? We in Merriam-Web. So the definition of life, Merriam-Web, y'all queen defines life as the quality that distinguishes a vital and functional being from a dead body. Which is like, all right, you feel me? Living from dead. But I think she can do a little better than that. She got another definition. An organismic state characterized by capacity for metabolism, growth, reaction to stimuli, and reproduction. Okay, Merriam-Web, I see you with the terms metabolism, stimuli, reproduction, organismic. Sprinkle our science jargon in there, right? So we got a scientific definition of life, right? An organismic state characterized by the capacity for metabolism, growth, reaction to stimuli, and reproduction. Notice, y'all queen, and I mess with Merriam. I mess with her. Merriam, that's gang, right? She gang. She stayed down, right? She's been down with us. But notice, she says nothing about size of the organism. She says nothing about location of the organism. In, out, she says nothing about location of the organism. She says nothing about the level of development of the organism. Says nothing about the level of dependence of the organism. She does not mention any of those 4 things as grounds for qualifying something as life. If I'm lying, Merriam, come through. According to Merriam, for something to be classified or considered life, it must demonstrate the 4 following things. 1, metabolism. From my understanding, metabolism is chemical changes at the cellular level. 2, growth. 3, reaction to stimulus of some sort. And 4, reproduction. Those are the only 4 characteristics that are mentioned. The capacity. Even if it doesn't actualize it, it must demonstrate the capacity for these things. I think part of the reason why it says capacity is because like for example, we know there are adults where they actually are having trouble like reproducing, but they still demonstrate the capacity for reproduction. But again, still, like, notice what was said and what was not said, right? Because a lot of the times with this, we start to bring in a number of factors that I'm not gonna hold you. Your queen didn't necessarily bring up as essential characteristics of to qualify or classify something as living. I'm just saying, don't be mad at me, bro. That's what the queen said. I can tell you what my father says, and I will. But we just talking about the queen right now. Merriam. You know Merriam, right? Merriam. But hey, man, look. We gonna slow it down even more. Put your pitchfork down. Before we even get to human life, let's take one step back. Let's go simpler. And the reason why I put air quotes on simple is because there's really no such thing as simple life. You'll see what I mean. Let's talk about the simplest form of life. The single-celled amoeba. A-MOE-BA. Because remember, if there's actually a right or wrong way to think about life, then there's likely a right or wrong way to be thinking about abortion. Because the abortion conversation hinges upon what we believe, what we know, and how we're thinking about life. So if you've never heard of an amoeba or an amoeba, I'm not gonna hold you. I don't know where you went to school at, bruh. They're single-celled organisms. They're microscopic living joints made up of one cell. Just one cell. One. And even though it might seem at face value that they're simple, right? Relative to us as being crazy, mad, dumb, multi-celled like organisms, even the simplest life, even this single-cell organism has intelligent complexity written all over it. Which actually leads me to the first big issue that I believe we have with our modern thinking about life. One of the biggest forms of cap pushed out by modern scientists is that life is the product of blind, unintelligent natural forces. It's cap. But according to some might go as like naturalist, natural evolutionist. According to them, the single-celled amoeba came together, poof, spontaneously, without any intelligent intervention at all. So non-living chemicals produced a living organism without any intelligent intervention spontaneously, and all biological life, including you and me, arose from this spontaneously generated single-celled organism. Apparently, this entire process was guided entirely by unintelligent natural forces. Something sound off to you about that, bro? Did you hear what I just heard, bro? So wait, you mean to tell me this life was just poof, just happened, and somehow unintelligent natural forces went from single-celled to crazy complexity? I'm just giving the general gist here, but this is generally what's described as macroevolution. This right here, now this is a problem for a number of reasons. First and foremost, there's no such thing as simple life. Even the single-celled amoeba has as much information encoded in its DNA as 1,000 sets, y'all like dictionaries, right, of the encyclopedia, bruh. I'm talking about big sis Encyclopedia Britannica. We not talking about Merriam no more. Now we talking about big sis Brittany. 1,000 complete set of Brittany's book. Think about how much information is in a dictionary. Given steroids, you got an encyclopedia. Put 1,000 of them joints together, and that's as much information as is encoded inside of this single-celled organism. What is simple about that, bruh? There's nothing simple about one dictionary, let alone one encyclopedia, let alone 1,000 encyclopedias worth of information, specific information encoded inside of a single-celled organism. If that's simple to you, you're different. That doesn't sound simple to me at all. Now, you might be like, bruh, I mean, yo, like, maybe it's just really long, like, that's a lot of information, but bro, it's not like, oh yeah, like, just pick and choose random, like, just random letters. Disordering in the DNA of a single-celled amoeba is not just random letters thrown about. The encyclopedia is When you open it up, you flip to a particular word, you look at a particular definition, right? It communicates information. It's a lot of information in a very specific order that communicates a number of specific messages. The same is true for the amoeba. And maybe I'm tossing y'all back to biology class. The only thing that heads remember from biology is the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, you feel me? But bro, if you remember, right, DNA, we not just talking about some random stuff, we just some random line picking assortment. Bro, it's DNA, we got the A, the C, the T, and the G. I'm not gonna hold you, I don't remember all the names of the things. I just remember we got the A, C, T, G, right? I used to be pre-med for about 0.5 seconds. 0.5 seconds. God plucked me out that joint. Shout out all my doctors though. But this is not a random ordering. This is a very specific ordering that communicates a very specific message. The message is literally the existence of the amoeba, what it is in and of itself. The amoeba is the message that is communicated from this specific ordering. Its very existence is communicated. It is the product of this very specific ordering. Anytime you have this specific ordering, you get an amoeba. Specific ordering, specific message. This is what we call specified complexity. So now let me ask you. You see a simple message, very simple, bro. I heart you. Simple message in the sand. What do you assume? Keep it a buck, bro. Like, can we be real? We and you, we friends. Can we be real with each other? You walk onto the beach, you see I heart you. That's a message, right? Very specific ordering. Communicates a very specific message. Do you assume that that's the product of a natural cause or an intelligent one? I'm asking you. If there is in fact a message that's communicated, we know messages to be the product of intelligence. Even simple ones. You go out into the sky and you see it spelled out in the clouds. Marry me. You think we just having some interesting weather pattern? Is that what you assume? You keep it a buck. Or do you start looking around because somebody popped the question? Somebody's getting married. Some intelligent being requested this. And another intelligent being produced it with the plane. Messages are the product of intelligence. Shameless plug. If you haven't already seen the video where I had a conversation about God and randomness, I actually talked about this message thing with my man's Osher, shout out Big O out in Cali. Check it out. Back to the topic. I actually forgot it. Keep it a buck, bro. Be real with yourself, right? We do not see natural forces creating messages. Every time you see a message, you assume, rightfully so, that it's the product of an intelligent being. So now let me ask you, you see a simple message and you assume it's the product of intelligence. Now, if you see a 1,000 encyclopedias long message, does it make more sense to assume that it's the product of mindless natural forces or that it's the product of intelligence? Remember, it's not a random jumble of letters. It's a very specific ordering. It's a very, very, very long ordering that communicates a very specific message. Simple message, intelligence. Yeah, we make that assumption for sure. It lines up with all that we've observed. 1,000 encyclopedias long, but we assume that it is the product of mindless nature. Is that good science to y'all? Maybe I'm tripping. Not only that, but the idea that life is the product of spontaneous generation. This goes against our observational experience, all that we have observed from the time we started existing. Observational experience is literally the tool that we use to confirm different scientific premises. And it goes against our observational experience. Yet we continue to accept it. Why is that? What are you talking about, bro? How? How does it go against all of our observational experience? What do you mean? All of our observational experience, all that we have observed tells us that life arises from life. Life produces life. And on the flip side of that, the spontaneous poof generation of life has never been observed, bro. Who has seen that? It's not like we have observed it and that is what is fueling this idea, right? In light of all the evidence that there is, and we will get into a lot more of that evidence in another video, but in light of all the evidence that there is for theism, for the existence of God, we assume this, that life as we know it, poof, arose spontaneously, right? In the absence of prior life, in the absence of intelligence. Right? So if there's no observational evidence, then why are we clinging to this idea that actually not just there's no scientific evidence for, but that goes against what we actually have observed? Look, bruh, as a teacher, I know that sometimes things can get kind of crazy when we start getting into a lot of jargon. Spontaneous generation, bro. What are you talking about, bro? Why are you throwing and using these big terms? But it's like, bro, let's simplify matters, bro. Most of y'all probably heard of this analogy, right? Now, so it's a question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And it's a difficult question for people to answer. And it's like, why? We know that chickens hatch from eggs, right? You have an egg and then a chicken. But then the question is like, but where did the egg come from? Another chicken. Chickens come from eggs. But chickens come from eggs that other chickens lay. Which one came first? When we think about life and the spontaneous generation of life, that's like saying, poof, the chicken just appeared. It generated itself. Right? The reason why this is an issue is because we know that chicken is a life that comes from other life, right? You got one chicken which lays an egg, right? Which hatches, and then you get another chicken. Life coming from life. You don't have just chickens just spontaneously appearing. Right? No intervention whatsoever, no intelligence, no nothing, just poof, chicken. Nah. Hey man, look, I'm a teacher, bro, but I'm gonna give y'all the answer. God made the chicken. I mean, God made the chicken. And the chicken has to lay some eggs. You feel me? The chicken didn't create itself. The chicken just poof. You know what I'm saying? The chicken is God's handiwork. There was intelligence involved that created that chicken. Was I supposed to tell him that? I hope I didn't spoil it for you. But life, the author of life, gave the chicken life. Chicken gave birth to other chicken lives. Right? It would literally be ridiculous for a person to be like, the chicken just appeared, case closed. The egg just appeared, case closed. You'd be like, from where? Oh, somehow, some way, bro. It actually gets wilder. There's actually more. The same scientists who push this idea of the spontaneous generation of human life, you say that nature did this thing somehow, right? Without providing the mechanism for how it actually did it. Okay, all right, I hear you. Do it. Do it. Do it then. Blind, unintelligent, and natural forces do it, right? Y'all the best and the brightest. Do it. Do it. Do it. Like Nike. Scientists have been unable to go outside, pick up some dirt, and cook up a DNA molecule, let alone a living being. We can talk about, like certain procedures like IVF, but correct me if I'm wrong. Do those not take a sperm and an egg from two living beings to produce life? You said that it arose from inorganic material. So let's take those same inorganic materials, get in the laboratory, and cook up some DNA. Let's cook up some living beings. It doesn't work like that. It hasn't worked like that because it doesn't work like that. So why would we assume that the life that we experience, the life that we know, didn't arise from similar life, didn't arise from the author of life, if there is in fact evidence for him? I don't know, bruh. Maybe I'm tweaking. I don't know, bruh. Let's face the realities, bruh. Can we be real? Even simple life, 1,000 Encyclopedia Britannica's long life. It's not the product of blind, unintelligent natural forces. Let alone, let's not even start talking about complex human life. All our observational experience, what we've seen, what we've known, what we've experienced tells us that life arises from similar life. Coupled with the fact that the specified complexity, the specific message ordering encoded in human DNA, in the human being, as well as the simple organism, Those things alone, those things spell intelligence. And not even just any type of regular intelligence, nah. We talking about some vast intelligence. We talking about crazy intelligence. We talking about him level intelligence. Him level intelligence. The origin of all life has superior, vast, dare I say, supernatural level intelligence written all over it. So all this talk about the composition of life leads me to my second point, which is that man as a human life is more than just material, physical, natural substances. Life is not simply physical. It's more than that. And let's see how. So let's go back for a second. I hope y'all still like dictionary. I know that it didn't produce the most favorable outcome for some, right, in our last point, but let's not give up on the dictionary, right? I thought the dictionary was cool. Let's search up the definition of materialism. The doctrine that nothing exists except matter, its movements, and its modifications. Essentially, it's the idea that nothing exists outside of matter. But think about that for a second. It's ideas such as this that scientists have allowed to creep into the way that they're viewing the world. And it leads to narrow conclusions. Because think about it. If there's nothing outside of the material world, then life has to be the product of nature. It has to be. Like, there's literally no other option. Because if we didn't do it, and obviously we didn't do it because we weren't there, based on this ideology, nature had to have done it. Because they leave absolutely no room for God to have done it. If the material world is all that there is, life literally has to be the product of mindless nature. Because we've already adopted this idea and we're allowing it to frame the way we see the world, but we've already ruled out the possibility of anything beyond what we see in the material world. And so now we're trying to come up with that explanation and understand, okay, well, where did this life come from? Where it's like, where did this life come from? All there is this material world. So nature must have done it. Nature must have done it because there's no room for anything else. There's no room for anyone else to do it. Is that good science? Is it good science to allow our preconceived notions to force us to certain conclusions? Or is it better science to consider our observational experience for what it is and what the conclusions that it's leading us to? Right? Whatever they may be. Which is better science? Preconceived notions and then fitting everything to that, or taking what we have for what it is and allowing us to lead us wherever it would go. Y'all let me know, bro. I'm not a scientist. I'm a teacher, but I'm not a science teacher. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about at all. Similar to materialism is the idea of naturalism. Naturalism is similar, right? It's the idea that nothing exists outside of the natural world. And when I say natural world, that would be like the time-bound, space-bound, material-bound, or material, matter-filled world. But it's the same issue. These ideas prematurely disqualify any possibility of the supernatural, even when our real-world observations and our natural world experiences lead us and literally push us towards supernatural conclusions. The scientific facts of the matter are showing us that life is not merely physical, right? We've talked about the specified complexity of life, pointing to intelligence, right? Something beyond mindless natural forces and laws. But not only that, the material world cannot account for everything. There are a number of things that it can't account for, some of which, and I'm going to focus on one in particular in this video, one that is very crucial, especially as it pertains to the purpose of this video, right? The purpose of this video, hopefully, is to get y'all thinking. I don't even want y'all to take what I'm saying and just assume that it's law, right? I want to prompt y'all to think. What did we talk about earlier in the last video, right? Making sure that we're thinking, right? Making evaluations, actually doing our due diligence to make sure that we're thinking appropriately so that we can what? Act. If materialism is true, then we have some explaining to us about how we're actually even able to reason and think, how humans actually have the capacity to reason. Materialism cannot completely account for thought or emotion. These are very, very important, especially as it pertains to us as human beings. So these would be like huge holes. Thoughts and emotions are not completely material. I'm not trying to deny that chemicals are involved. I'm aware that there are chemical reactions involved when it comes to thinking and emotions, right? But Materialism doesn't just say that, oh, like most things are matter. Materialism said that nothing exists outside of matter, its movements and its modifications, that beyond matter there is nothing. And I'm saying that thoughts and emotions are not completely material. If these things are completely material, then there's a couple questions we gotta ask, right? How much does a bad thought weigh? If it's matter, right? If it's material, how much does a bad thought weigh? How much does a collection of bad thoughts weigh? What's the chemical composition of love? It's chemical composition of fear. What's the chemical composition of hate? How much do loving thoughts, hateful thoughts, how much do these things weigh? If we're going to talk about them as being under materialism, purely material. It's wild, bro, because we don't even have to think mad abstract about it, bro. Answer me this. The theories of materialism, the theory of naturalism, are these theories themselves made of molecules? Are they themselves material? No, bruh. No. Even the theories themselves are not purely material. They are not made of they are not made of molecules. There may be some chemical reactions taking place, right? But if our mental processes are just chemical reactions, then reason itself is impossible. If our mental processes, right, by which we think intelligently, are just simply, purely, solely chemical reactions, answer me this. Do chemicals reason? Last time I checked, molecules don't reason about anything. Last time I checked, molecules don't make evaluations about truth. Maybe I'm wrong, but last time I sat in a chemistry class, all we said is that chemicals react. All they do is react. They don't reason. They don't evaluate. They just react. These are the questions that we have to answer if the world is, in fact, purely and solely material. Friend. Come. Friend, what makes more sense to you? Everything else aside. All the preconceived notions, just you and me right now. What makes more sense to you? That unintelligent matter produced intelligent life, or that the human mind and all its intelligence, all its intellectual capabilities is made in the image of the great mind, the architect of reality and reason itself. Either our ability to reason, our ability to think intelligently, to make considerations, to converse, to argue, to make judgments, right? Either these things, this ability, came from pre-existing intelligence, or it came from mindless matter. Matter which has no intelligence produced intelligence. Beings who are able to think intelligently came from something that is completely in and of itself unintelligent. Hey, bruh. Friend, please, even if you don't want to tell me, be honest with yourself. Which one makes more sense to you? The reason why I bring up like all these questions is not to try to gotcha. But in actuality, like sometimes we very easily like adopt ideas. Okay, it sounds good. Nothing exists beyond the material world. That's all I can see, right? So yeah, that must be the case, but ideas have implications. We might very easily embrace, oh yeah, that sounds good, that look good. We might very easily embrace certain ideas, but we don't realize that there are a number of implications that come with them, and they actually leave us begging for answers on a number of other fronts. We pick it up thinking that we're answering a big question when it's opening the door to 100 smaller questions that actually need answers, right? It struggles to answer these things, and if it's really struggling to answer all of these things, then we have to ask ourselves, yo, like, is this really the answer, bro? Or is there something we're missing? So remember, right? We're trying to understand if there's an appropriate way for us to begin to think, for us to be thinking about life. So as we we set out to do that, right? When we think about this idea of materialism, it's only right, that we explore like one of these smaller questions that is actually related to life and death. If life is really, purely, strictly physical, how do we explain why an individual is living and is alive one moment and dead the next? You can describe the differences. Sure, one is breathing, the other is not. One has a heartbeat, the other doesn't. One has brain activity, the other one doesn't. But the question is not what is the difference between a dead and a living being. The question is why? Why is that the case? Because when we think about the body itself, its molecular composition is the same. An individual, right? Living, breathing, vibing. Next moment, dead. Why? Again, we can talk about the differences. One of them is breathing, the other one's not. But why? Why can't we restore their breath? One has a heartbeat, the other one doesn't have a heartbeat. Why can't we shock them into an infinite heartbeat? Why can't we keep their heart beating forever? Why is their heart beating in the first place? Where does the first breath come from? Where does the last breath go? What is the chemical composition of consciousness? Why can't we manufacture a conscience? Why can't we just make the joint? It's purely physical, right? Just make one. Scientists, y'all said it, not me. Get in the lab and make it. Why can we not take those inorganic materials, the same ones from before, right? The same ones that were able to produce life. Why can't we take those materials and make life? These are questions that we struggle to answer if we're limited in the pool of available answers. We've already predetermined and pre-decided that all there is what is material. All there is what is physical. What has that left us with? A whole lot of questions and not a whole lot of answers. I'm not gonna hold you, bro. You find yourself so confused that you gotta come back to square one. Get to a point where the only reasonable explanation at this point is that something exists beyond the physical. Don't get me wrong, bro. I love science. Making observations and understanding the world around us, I think that's a great thing. I think that we've made some great scientific discoveries. But for all those scientific discoveries, there's another scientific discovery that we need to embrace. Life, as in our lived experiences, yes, but life itself is more than just matter. It's more than just the physical, natural world around us. It's more than just material. There's another component. Enter spiritual.